Hi everyone, welcome to today's 30-minute practice. We're going to go through a deep stretch of the body today, so focusing on hips and hamstrings. So you will need a yoga strap, but if you don't have one, you could use a belt or maybe the cord of a dressing gown or something like that. Just get creative for the first part of the class. So we're going to get started lying down on our backs. So just take a few moments to settle in here. You can keep the knees bent so that the soles of the feet are on the floor. Just allow the shoulders to relax. Palms of the hands can face up towards the sky. And just taking a few smooth, deep breaths here in and out through the nose. So we're going to reach here for our strap. We're just going to loop it around the sole of the right foot, sending the right leg up to the sky. So take one strap in each hand. Depending on how flexible you are in the hamstrings, you may wish to wrap the strap around your hands a few times, but just allow the head, neck and shoulders to relax down towards the floor. Flexing the toes back towards you, keep the breath nice and steady. So just really focusing on that breath here. So with every exhale, seeing if you can draw the leg in towards you a little bit more. Keeping the top of the body nice and heavy. So again, if you are quite open in the hamstrings, you may wish to wrap the strap around the hands a little bit more with each exhale. Otherwise, just seeing where you can come to. So don't worry too much about the shape you're in, as long as you're feeling a nice stretch. And either staying where you are if it's enough, or option to extend the left leg towards the front of the mat. Keep the toes flexing back towards the body. Just notice how this feels a little bit more intense by taking that option. So again, just using your breath and breathing into it. So just taking a little bit longer to hold the pose. Seeing if we can just soften around those muscles. And then from here, we're going to take both straps into the right hand. Your left hand is going to come onto your left hip bone. So just placing the palm onto the left hip bone and then allowing the right leg to come over to the right side. So your left hip is going to want to lift up as the leg comes over. So use the palm on the hip bone to encourage that hip to stay down. So we really want to find the stretch without twisting the hips. And then just breathing here into this once again. Again, try not to take any tension into the shoulders. So keeping them relaxing down to the floor. Try to make sure that both shoulders are on the floor as well. So notice if you started to lift the left shoulder off the mat. See if you can keep rooting it down. And again, just maybe noticing if with every out breath you can allow that leg to come over a little bit more. And just taking a few more rounds of breath here. Just really allowing the leg to go heavy. So really allowing gravity to do the work. And then on your next inhale, we'll start to draw that leg all the way back up through center. So sending the leg up towards the sky. We're going to swap hands now. So both straps come into the left hand. Your right arm is going to come to cactus arm on the floor. So bend the elbow so the back of the hand can rest on the floor. And then just allow that leg to come over to the left side. So here the hip can lift, but you want to make sure that the right shoulder can stay down onto the floor. So if the shoulder starts to lift, then don't allow the leg to come over as far to the left. If it feels okay on the neck, look towards the right hand. And just breathe here into this twist. So top of the body is heavy into the floor. Taking a few more rounds of breath here. And then we'll inhale, raise that leg all the way back up through center. And then from here, we're just going to bend that knee into the chest, releasing the strap. So moving the strap to one side. Arms can wrap around the shin or the back of the thigh. Just take a gentle sway from side to side. And then from here, we're going to come into our half happy baby. So right hand comes to either the back of the thigh or outer edge of that right foot. And you're trying to draw the knee to the space by the side of the chest. So down towards the floor. So really opening up through that hip. The left leg can stay extended, or you can slide the sole of the foot on the floor so that the knee comes up towards the sky. From here, release the right leg. The right ankle is going to come just above the left knee, so we're coming into our figure 4 stretch. So the knee goes out to the right, but the hip bones stay central. If this is enough, stay here. Otherwise, lift the sole of the left foot off the floor. Maybe wrap the hands behind the back of that left thigh. So you're just drawing the thigh in towards the body, finding that nice stretch on the outer edge of the right hip. So keep flexing the right toes back towards the knee, so we're protecting that knee joint. Try not to lift the hips off the mat, so we want to keep the tailbone lengthening towards the front. Keep the head, neck and shoulders relaxed on the floor, so find that weightedness at the top of the body. Option to stay here, or if you want to go a step further, maybe extending out through that left leg, flexing the toes back towards you. Breathing here again, keep the tailbone lengthening down towards the front of the room. And then exhale, drop the sole of the left foot on the floor, hands come either side of the hips. Going to keep the right leg where it is and lift the hips off the mat. So we're staying in that figure 4 shape with the legs. Keep flexing the right toes back towards the right knee. And make sure that the hips are even so they're not coming out to the sides. One more breath here. And then exhale, slowly start to release the hips down towards the floor. We're going to cross that right leg all the way over the left now, like you're sat in a chair. Bring both arms back to cactus arms, so bending at the elbows, and allow the knees to fall over towards the left side, taking your gaze to the right. So again, we want both shoulders to be rooting down into the floor. So just finding that twist in the lower spine. And then on your next inhale, slowly bringing the knees back through center. We'll uncross the legs. Just hug that right knee up and over the chest one last time. Take a little sway from side to side. And then bring that left knee in to meet the right. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And then sole of the right foot comes down. We're going to grab our strap and take the same thing on the other side. So looping the strap around the sole of the left foot this time. Just taking a moment to adjust the strap however you need, so whether it's looping it around the hands or making it a little bit longer. Just flexing the toes back, drawing that leg in towards you. Keeping the shoulders relaxed down onto the floor, and just start to bring your attention back to that smooth, even breath here again. So we use the breath to journey deeper into the pose by focusing on our exhales and seeing if we can soften in every time we breathe out. So allowing a release from all that gripping and holding in the muscles. Option to stay here, or again you can straighten out through that right leg, flexing the right toes back towards you. Just noticing how it feels on this side. Often we're tighter on one side than the other. So just being aware if that's the case for you. And seeing if you can bring that leg in a little bit more. From here, we'll start to take both straps into the left hand this time. Your right hand is going to come down onto the right hip bone, and then just allow that leg to come over to the left side. So that hip bone stays rooted down onto the floor, so really use the palm to press that hip down. Don't let it lift up. So we're stretching into the left leg. Keep both shoulders down onto the mat. Again, just find your breath here. So every exhale, seeing if you can release the foot over to the left a little bit more without the hip lifting. So as much as possible, you want the whole body to be relaxed. So try not to tense the muscles. Notice if you're holding in the jaw or if the space between the eyebrows is a little bit crinkled. See if you can just soften in. And focus on your breath. So if this stretch is quite hard for you, if you're finding it quite uncomfortable, as long as you're not feeling pain, just breathe through it. Really use the breath here. It's such a powerful tool. And just tune into those sensations in the body. We'll take one more round of breath here. And then on your next inhale, we'll slowly start to bring that leg back through center. And we'll swap hands again, so bringing both straps into your right hand this time. Left arm comes to cactus arm on the floor, so bending at the elbow so the shoulder can rest down. The left leg is coming over to the right side. And again, just checking what's going on with the top of the body, so making sure both shoulders can relax into the mat. If it's okay for you, taking the gaze over towards the left side, just making sure that you're not putting any pressure on the neck, so making sure it's comfortable. And your leg doesn't have to come all the way over to the right side, so as long as you're feeling a stretch, it can come over just barely. And you're just holding onto that strap. Again, using your breath to see if you can allow the leg to come a little bit further over with each out breath, but keeping the top of the body onto the mat. And if you are quite flexible here and you feel that you've got further to go, then you're trying to move that foot a little bit closer up towards the top of the mat, so up towards where your head is. And from here on your next inhale, we'll just bring that leg back through center. We'll hug the knee into the chest, just releasing that strap. Take a wrap around the shins. The shin, not the shins. Take a gentle rock from side to side, and then we'll come into that half happy baby. So hand comes to either the outer edge of the foot or maybe behind the back of the thigh, just drawing that knee down to the side of the left chest. On the left side of the chest. Words, Jess, that's not working for me today. Breathe here. Keep the shoulders relaxed. And then inhale, slide the sole of the right foot down onto the floor. We'll take that figure 4 cross, so left ankle just above the right knee. Staying there, or lift the right sole of the foot off the floor, wrapping the hands behind the back of that right thigh. Flex the left toes back towards the left knee. And keep the head, neck and shoulders relaxed onto the floor as you draw that thigh in a little closer. Keep the tailbone lengthening towards the front of the mat. So again, we're not lifting those hips up. We don't want to compensate for the stretch. And you can gently use your left forearm to push that left thigh away. So you're really allowing the knee to come forward whilst keeping the hips nice and straight. Option to straighten out that right leg if you took that on the other side. Flexing the toes back towards you, so a little bit of a deeper stretch here. Again, keep the shoulders relaxed, so try not to hunch or take any tension there. Keep the breath steady, back of the head is heavy into the mat. And then exhale, we'll gently release the hands, bring the sole of the right foot back down onto the floor, keep the left leg where it is. Bring the hands by the sides of the body, and then inhale, lift the hips up high. Just notice if they've started to twist over to one side, see if you can keep them nice and central. So the knee is going to the left, but the hips are staying up. Keep the breath steady. And then exhale, slowly start to roll down the spine, dropping the hips back down to the floor. From here, we'll cross the left leg all the way over the right, like we're sat in a chair. Bring both arms to cactus arms, so bending at the elbows, and then allow both knees to fall to the right side as you look to the left. Keep the shoulders rooting down onto the floor, so don't allow that left shoulder to lift. And just breathe here. Notice how it feels to twist out the spine in this way. And just taking one more round of breath here. And we'll slowly start to bring the knees back through center, just unraveling the legs. Hug that left knee up and over the chest. Take a squeeze of the knee in towards the chest, and then bring the right knee in to meet the left. Take a gentle rock from side to side, maybe some small hip circles. And then from here, the hands are going to come behind the backs of the thighs. And we're just going to take a rock and roll forward. So take that massage of the spine, the length of the mat. On the third time, we're going to come all the way up to seated. We're just going to bring the hands in front to roll over the knees to come back through all fours. Just moving my strap out the way here. And then from here, we're just going to send the right leg back, bring the toes onto the floor and just push back into that heel. So we're just going to stretch out the calf muscle slightly. Keep the shoulders drawing back, the gaze is towards the top of the mat. Maybe take a little pulse forwards and backwards, just noticing how it feels in the back of the leg. Bringing that knee back through center, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So left leg goes back, the toes curl under onto the floor, just pushing back through that heel, put a little weight into the hands, and then just take that pulsing forwards and backwards. From here, keep the left leg where it is, right leg comes to meet the left in plank pose, and then exhale, send the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Just take a breath or two here, bending through the knees, pedaling through the feet, really strong through the arms, just noticing how it feels into the hamstrings. And then from here, keeping the hips in line, the weight even in the hands, draw the right knee up to the right side of the chest, and we're just going to make some big circles with the knee. So we're not opening up the hip, we're keeping the hips in line. Just noticing how this feels, maybe reversing the circle here, just easing through any pops or cracks in the hip. And then step that right foot all the way up in between the hands, lower the left knee down. Draw the shoulders back to open up through the chest, keep the crown of the head lifting towards the sky. And either staying here if it's enough of a stretch, or you can curl the back toes under, just move that left knee back slightly. So climbing the hands up onto that right knee, make sure that the right knee is over the right ankle, so it's not coming any further forward. See if with every exhale you can sink down into the stretch a little bit more. Keeping the shoulders back, breathe here, keep the breath nice and steady. From here, the left fingertips are going to come down onto the floor. The right hand is just going to peel back into the right hip crease. So you're keeping that right hip back so the hips stay in line. Either staying here if it's enough, maybe starting to bend through that left knee, maybe reaching back and catching the top of the foot, drawing it in towards the sitting bones. Breathing here. If you feel steady, you can take your gaze towards the back of the mat. You can also use a strap here if you're not quite there yet with grabbing the foot. So you can grab your strap and just loop it around the top of the foot. So take that option, or just stay in our first variation coming into our twist. Exhale, gently release. Curl the back toes under, move that back knee forward slightly. And then we're sending both the hips back so we can come into our hamstring stretch on the right side. Flex the right toes back towards you, keep the chest nice and open. So walk the fingertips back until they're underneath the shoulders. Keep pushing the chest forward. So you're lengthening out through the spine. Try not to round through the top of the body. One more breath. And then slowly rolling over the sole of that right foot, bending into the knee. Bring the hands to frame the front foot. We'll lift the left knee off the mat and send the right leg up and back into our three-legged dog. From here, bend the knee to open up the hip. We're going to take some big hip circles. This time trying to stack the right hip on top of the left as we come over. So really bending into that knee, firm down through the hands. And then just drop the right foot to meet the left, downward facing dog. Take a little pedal through the feet. And then taking our hip circles on the left side. So hip is closed this time. We're leaning the weight forward and just rotating that left knee round in one direction then the other. Really strong through the hands, so try not to collapse into the shoulders. And then stepping that left foot all the way forward, right knee comes down. So coming into our low lunge again on this side. Start by drawing the shoulders back, finding openness in the chest. Maybe curling the back toe under, moving that right knee back slightly. And then just bringing the hands up onto the thigh, seeing if you can sink down into the pose without the left knee coming any further forward than the ankle. So I want to keep the hips in line here. Relax the shoulders, every exhale, maybe seeing if you can find space to sink in a little bit more. Keep the breath steady. And then on your next exhale, right fingertips come down to the floor. Left hand either stays on the left hip, just peeling back with that left hip crease, or maybe starting to bend through that right knee this time, lifting up through the foot. Maybe catching the top of the foot, maybe using that strap. If you feel steady, taking your gaze towards the back of the mat. Just breathing into whichever variation of the pose you've taken. Exhale, gently release the foot. Frame the left foot with the hands and then send both hips back, coming into our half splits variation. So walk the fingertips back so that the palms are underneath the shoulders. Breathe here, keep drawing the chest back. Don't sit the hips back down towards that right heel, so keep them lifted. And try to keep the hips nice and central, so we're not swaying them out to the side. Keep the breath going. And then on your next inhale, we'll slowly start to bend into that left knee, rolling over the sole of the left foot. Hands come down either side of the foot. Lift the right knee off the floor and send that left leg up and back, three-legged dog. Bend into the knee, start to make those big hip rotations now so we can open the hip right up. Keep the weight even in the hands, reverse the circle of the knee. And then drop the left foot down to meet the right, downward facing dog. Again, just take a moment here, pedaling the feet, bending the knees. And then from here, we're going to look between the hands. We're going to step the right foot slightly behind the wrists in the center of the mat. So in between the hands, but behind the wrists. From here, come onto the outer edge of that right foot. Just allow the right knee to come over to the side and then shift the weight forward slightly. So you're feeling a nice stretch in the outer edge of that right hip. So if you're quite open here, you can try bending the elbows, also a little bit of work on the arms. Keep the breath steady, and then inhale, we're going to pick that knee up. So you're squeezing the knee into the chest and just take gentle rocks of the knee from side to side, so kind of like a pendulum motion. Keep strong in the arms. And then from here, we're bringing the right knee behind the right wrist, right ankle behind the left wrist. So we're setting up for Pigeon Pose. So just make sure that you're nice and even on both sides. You're not leaning over to the right. Walk the fingertips back so that you can lengthen through the spine. And then from here, maybe coming down onto forearms. You also have the option of walking all the way forward, allowing the forehead to drop down to the floor. Just make sure that the hips aren't swaying to the side, so try and keep nice and steady. If anything, lean slightly to the left, it will make it a little bit stronger. If you're still on forearms, keep pulling the shoulders back so the chest is nice and open. We'll just spend a few rounds of breath here, breathing into this pose. Noticing that with every exhale, you can sink in a little bit more, maybe softening around those muscles. And just make sure that the left knee is happy here. So if it's not very comfortable to come onto the top of the foot, you can keep the back toes curled under. And again, just allowing each out breath to be an invitation to sink down into the pose a little bit more. Seeing if you can ease off that gripping and holding that the body kind of naturally brings us to with the muscles. Just taking one more round of breath. And then slowly start to walk the fingertips back towards you, straightening the spine. Curl the back toes under, lift the left knee off the mat and send the right leg up and back, three-legged dog. Drop the right foot down to meet the left, downward facing dog, and straight away we're going to come to the other side. So left foot steps forward behind the wrist in the center of the mat. Come onto the outer edge of the foot, just allow that left knee to come over to the side. Shift the weight forward, again you can bend the elbows, so find that stretch, find where it works for you. So play around with the pose a little bit until you find it. Inhale, draw that knee into the center, take that pendulum motion with the knee. So you're just swaying the knee from side to side, releasing that hip stretch. And then taking our pigeon pose on the other side, left knee comes behind left wrist, left ankle towards right wrist. So setting up here, walking the fingertips back, lengthening through the spine, breathe, draw the shoulders back, and then either staying here if it's enough or starting to walk the hands forward, coming down onto forearms or lengthening all the way out if you'd like to. Keep flexing the left toes back towards the left knee, so we're protecting the knee joint. Again, just make sure that the back knee is okay here. And you can just take a glance back as well, just see if the knee is still in one straight line. So often it kind of sways out to the side and we don't realise. Just keeping the hips nice and steady. Again, use your breath here. Every exhale, maybe softening in that little bit more. Maybe just noticing if you're a little bit tighter on this side than the other, maybe a little bit more open. Often we have one hip which is a little bit tighter than the other, so just seeing if that's the case for you. Just really noticing your discomfort. So it's not the easiest of stretches, it's not the nicest feeling, particularly when we're just starting out. So if you're relatively new to the pose, see if you can use your breath to be your focus. So taking your attention away from that pulling sensation in the muscles. We'll take one more round of breath here. And then when you're ready, start to walk the fingertips back towards the body, lengthening through the spine. And then from here, we're going to roll onto the left sitting bone. So we're going to come through seated to a wide-legged position. So come all the way over onto the left hip. When you arrive, we're just going to swing that left leg round to the side. So we're coming into a wide seat. So you want to make sure that you're not rounding through the spine here. So you still want to sit up nice and tall. Flex the toes back towards you. So imagine you're trying to shine the inner thighs up towards the ceiling. So the knees face up towards the sky rather than collapsing in. From here, we're just going to bring the hands in front of the body. And just walk the fingertips forward, feeling a nice stretch into the legs, into the inner thighs. Keep the shoulders pulling back. And then maybe seeing if you can come down a little bit further, walking the fingertips forward without the knees collapsing in. So keep flexing the toes back towards you, strong through the legs. So try not to lock out through the knees. You can keep a micro bend into the knees. But we want to keep that rotation of the legs so that the knees don't collapse in. Keep the breath going. So every exhale, once again, seeing if you can soften in. So really focusing on the breath throughout this practice. Notice how it feels in the hips. Maybe coming into the pose with a little bit more ease now we've worked through the legs and the hips. And just really using your breath, focusing on that again rather than the sensations in the body. On your next inhale, slowly start to walk the fingertips back up towards you, lengthening through the spine. And then from here, we'll just bring the hands underneath the knees. And just bend the knees ever so gently, so coming out of that pose nice and slow. We'll bring the soles of the feet together, coming into our butterfly pose. So again, just making sure that you're sat up nice and tall. Hands can come around the shins, the ankles, or maybe wrapped around the toes if that feels nice. Draw the shoulders back to open the chest. Either stay where you are or exhale and fold forward. Again, just using your breath here, and you don't need to come all the way down, so just finding that edge in the pose for you. Breathing there. If you are quite open, maybe gently using the forearms to put a really gentle pressure onto the thighs, pushing the thighs a little bit further down towards the floor. So we're not shoving the thighs down towards the floor. Please don't push really hard down onto the legs. We're just easing the legs down, so using a little bit of a self-adjust. As you inhale, breathing into the back of the body, feeling the back of the ribcage expand. As you exhale, maybe seeing if you can soften in a little bit more, rounding the spine. We'll take one more round of breath here. On your next inhale, tuck the chin to the chest, slowly start to roll up through the spine, sitting up nice and tall. And then once again, we'll bring the palms to the outer edges of the knees, drawing the knees in and together. From here, soles of the feet stay on the floor, bring them about hip width apart. We'll just send the arms forward, palms facing down, and take a gentle roll all the way down onto our backs. When you arrive, reach the arms towards the back of the mat, take a nice stretch of the arms, and then allow the knees to fall away from each other so soles of the feet come together. So reclined butterfly pose. Allow the body to sink down into the mat. So if you have any tightness in the shoulders and this doesn't feel nice to extend the arms, then bend the elbows here. So the arms are kind of a mirror of the legs. Just notice how it feels in the hips. And then if you're happy here, staying in your reclined butterfly, then please stay where you are. Otherwise we can start to straighten out the legs, separating the feet nice and wide, allowing them to be heavy out to the sides. And arms can stay where they are or bring them alongside the body, palms facing up to the sky, backs of the hands resting on the floor. Coming into our final relaxation pose, Shavasana. So whichever pose you're in, taking at least a few minutes here, allowing the body to settle. Notice how you feel, tune back into those sensations in the body. So notice anything that's going on for you that maybe wasn't there before. Allow your breath to be steady, a nice comfortable rhythm. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for your time and your energy. I hope to see you very soon. Have a lovely rest of your day.